think very interesting. What identity is Europe willing to bestow on Muslims? And is goodwill becoming smaller and smaller? So I think those are the questions I'd ask Douglas.
The options we have in Europe seem to me to be twofold to deal with this issue. One is to do the following, which is broadly speaking what we are doing across the continent at the moment. It is to decide that there is a serious problem with Islamic fundamentalism which we have noticed, and as a result, for the rest of time, we will be discussing Islam, Muslims, Muslim communities. We will be having many, many seminars like this one. There will be a dialogue that goes on endlessly, and we will additionally be paying huge amounts of money to self-appointed Muslim representatives, usually the big mouths from their communities, who decide that they speak for Islam. They will, by and large, also be more radical than the people they claim to speak for. And as a result, the whole dialogue will be skewed. That's one possibility. That's what we're doing at the moment. And we've seen the problem from that again and again. We keep on making the same mistake over and over again. The second option is that Europe itself, Europeans, are better at saying what it is we believe in, what it is we are, that is, people of all faiths and none, and say where we draw the line. It's noticeable to my mind that that isn't happening at the moment. Islam is, I'm the first to concede, exceedingly complex, is not homogeneous, has very many confused ideas within it, as indeed does Europe. But there's no point in solely beating up on Europe in such a debate and solely praising Islam, because praise and indeed blame have to be shared around at least equally. But addressing Islam and saying that racism and Islamophobia can be brought together in the way they have been in recent years is, to my mind, very troubling for the following reason. I'm an atheist. I have no dog in the religious fight, as it were. But it is Islamophobic if I state the fact that I think that Muhammad very evidently made up the Quran. I also believe, by the way, that Moses didn't come down from the mountain with any engraved stones, and I think it less likely that Mary, the mother of Jesus, had a child for the first time without any interjection of the male, and more likely that a young Jewish girl told a fib. But of these three things, which to my mind are perfectly obvious, I believe that Christians and Jews put up with hearing that most of the time, and I don't get called a Christophobe or a Judeophobe for saying so, but an Islamophobe straight off, absolutely. As I say, racism does exist, and we should be addressing that in our societies, but Islamophobia, as such, is a crock term. It is not to have any special seminar, any special hearing, any special vocal representatives. As an immigrant friend of mine always puts it, the moment when you know you're really integrated is when you realize that being a citizen consists of simply putting up with the same old crap the rest of us have to put up with. And that's it.
We'll move on. Daniel, would you like to come in on some of the issues that our questioners have asked?
I have never heard Douglas speak before. I have not even read anything what he have written. So it's the first time, well, I have read worse people than him, you know. So I would like to correct him factually two things, because when I hear him, I am really amazed that he's so ignorant of what is happening among Muslim communities and even what is happening in Britain. Let me give an example. He says, Islam has many confused ideas, as has Europe. Now, a man of his stature is comparing a religion with a continent. You can't do that. Let me finish. If you want to compare, let's compare Islam with Christianity. What Christianity has done in history and what Islam has done. Then I would like to have a comparison. Then you said that Islamophobia is a bogus term. I agree with you, because it's not Islamophobia, it is hatred against Islam. Douglas, you should know that Islamophobia is our hatred against Islam is not a new phenomenon. It started right after the inception of Islam, where the popes and the clergy and the whole historical narrative, if you see, it is anti-Islamic. And it has nothing to do with homosexuality. It has nothing to do with anti-Semitism.
So, Douglas, you've heard a number of comments here for the last 2 hours or so. Have you mellowed a bit? Has it changed any of your ideas?
I don't quite know why it's me that has to mellow. I mean that perfectly frankly. I don't see why I should drop my hatred of and disdain for bigoted and racist viewpoints that come from Islam. And nothing that's happened today will change that contempt or that hatred for that kind of bigotry. Bashi said that he didn't know of my work, and I can certainly return the compliment. But he did say that he was not sure why I wasn't talking about Christianity and Islam, and it is, I can simply say, because it's not the title of what we're meant to be discussing today. The title is Europe and Islam, and that's what I've tried to approach. I do think there's one thing that you said, Bashi, which is important to take up on, which I thought was deeply disingenuous. Your quoting of the Quran, the Quranic verse about there being no compulsion in religion. You do know how that verse goes on. Yes. Would you like to quote it to the people present?
First of all, in all religious scriptures...
Let
me finish. I'm just saying to you, because I'm answering to you, because you're taking just one surah out of context.
Well, you quoted it.
No.
Okay, let's move on, please. Come on.
One of the things I think we have learned from today, and some of us have agreed on, is that the approach of many of our governments at the moment is wrong. Our governments in Europe still too much think, in the same way as Kissinger said about Europe, which number do I dial to get Europe? And our leaders still continue to think, which number do I dial to get the Muslims? This is the wrong way to think about it. You don't dial numbers to get communities. They are just simply part of Britain or Europe, as Daniel said at the outset. We should be faith-blind as we are colour-blind. But the problem is that when you have the most reactionary, the most bigoted people, the most loudmouth people stepping forward, this is a problem.